Coming up this week on the Markcast. Big CFL Week 15 pregame show this week. Have you covered both with the East Division and the West? Two great CFL reporters plus two player interviews coming at you. Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press joins us to preview everything on the CFL West Division. We're talking BC Lions, Blue Bombers, Elks, everyone else.
There was a burning fire in Zach Claris and the team all week. They just didn't share it. They took their opportunity at IG Field Saturday afternoon in the Banjo Bowl, and did they ever answer back?
And then Dan Ralph from the Canadian Press joins us. We are talking the Argos, we're talking Ticats, Red Blacks, everything going on over there, the Alouettes. What do we make of them and more?
Sometimes, you know, the best option is to live to play another down rather than go for the whole enchilada. But having said that, if I had Austin Mack as a receiver, maybe I would hold on to the ball too.
The XFL is reportedly not renewing the contracts for its assistant coaches, and Twitter is melting down. I give my 2 cents on the situation that has the internet unraveling this week.
Everybody's dialed in. Everybody knew what they had to do. You know, Coach Thorpe does a great job of, like, you know, making sure we understand what we have to do. Because like I said, last week is a bit of a crapshoot, really. We kind of embarrassed ourselves out there. Not kind of, we did embarrass ourselves. So, you know, it's exciting to go back in now. Everybody has like a clear vision on what we need to get done this week.
And then two great player interviews. We have Almondo Sewell of the Montreal Alouettes and Mathieu of America's CFL team, the BC Lions, joining us. Hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe. Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here. Busy week trying to get all of this recorded. I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by today. Jeff Hamilton had a chaotic morning, car accident. Everything's fine. Made it on the show, working around everything. A couple different days trying to get Almondo Sewell on the program. Really appreciate his time. So just hope you guys enjoy. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here, trying to get up to 3,500 subscribers. Big CFL Week 15 here. 4 great matchups over the weekend. We have the Montreal hosting Toronto here. They have their big BMX-themed bike night happening there. And then we have Edmonton traveling to Saskatchewan. Very excited for that. Elks kind of rolling right now with Trey Ford. And then obviously Winnipeg rolling into Hamilton. Hope Hamilton puts up a little bit more of a fight than we were expecting. And then Ottawa coming home. In my opinion, a must win for the BC Lions. BC Lions cannot be dropping any games right now, especially to Ottawa at home. Like I said, 4 great interviews today. We have Jeff Hamilton joining us from the Winnipeg Free Press. Really appreciate him making the time, like I said, on a chaotic morning on his part. Really appreciate that. And then Dan Ralph, always making time to come on the program. Can't wait to see Dan back up. Dan and Jeff probably back up in Hamilton for the Grey Cup this year. And then really appreciate Francis, everyone over at the Montreal Alouettes, getting the Almondo Sewell on the program. And then Matt Baker and I took in a Mariner game here. One of the one loss we had this week to the Anaheim Angels. It was very, very sad. Extra innings loss, but spent lots of time hanging out with Matt and the rest of the BC Lions content team. Really appreciate him setting up Mathieu coming on the program. That's going to probably do it for me today. I do have the article up. I know there were reports out this week of XFL assistant coaches contracts not being renewed. Obviously, you know, the online stress and kind of, you know, discussion and argument that's going to arise from that, similar to, you know, the XFL losing $60 million. We kind of lived through all that a few months ago. I will say genuinely so happy to be podcasting CFL right now and be talking actual football and not expansion or hypothetical expansion or hypothetical rebranding through extension. Like, really just enjoying talking football right now, really enjoying all of our conversations involved with that, with the CFL. But I did want to touch on this today. I asked Andy, like, do you have any hot takes on this? And, you know, we've kind of talked about it in the group chat this week, but I figured I would give my 2 cents on here. Article notes, XFL assistant coaches facing uncertainty as contracts wind down. The September 22nd is going to be, I guess, the end date for the current contracts of all the assistant coaches, not the head coaches and not the XFL, you know, coordinators, but the assistant coaches. It sounds like they'll have benefits paid out through September 30th. The assistant coaches contracts are set to expire with no clear date set for renewal of their agreements as the league explores new payment structures. Obviously, you can imagine kind of the drama and stress that went online when all of these reports came out this week. To me, I don't know. I don't want to call this a nothing burger because obviously these are people's lives and careers and trying to get work. It looks like they can apply for unemployment here in the off season as early as the new contract could come up as early as November or January, so they could do the unemployment in the meantime. And the next year, maybe they have a different contract in place, and you could be under unemployment for longer. From maybe potentially May through November. I don't know. To me, Andy and I have talked about this ad nauseum on here, the seasonal nature of the XFL, and as much as we want them to operate as kind of a 365 business right now, I just don't think that that's prudent. We've seen that with the USFL basically go dark, following their season, except for these NFL, the USFL to NFL signings, but pretty much go dark in that regard. It feels like similar here. Do we need to keep the assistant coaches on staff payroll, throughout the year, even if they're only theoretically working 4 months out of the year? Obviously, I use kind of the air quotes on that because I believe football staffs work all year. We've had Evan on here, the assistant director of player personnel over at the Vegas Nighthawks. If I don't think football, scouting, football development, coaching, any of that ever goes into the offseason. But if you're quote unquote theoretically only working 4 months for the XFL, really kind of hard to have them to justify paying those contracts right now for 12 months out of the year. We'll see. Like I said, we've seen similar models. It notes here drawing parallels with the USFL's operational blueprint. The XFL is contemplating a pay model where assistant coaches would be compensated during active periods ranging from training camp to the ongoing season, a setup that echoes part-time employment more than a full-time commitment. Mark had the extra little quote here, and this is kind of where I get we got to do clicks and all of that, but the tumultuous scenario evokes concerns, yet also opportunities for restructuring and revitalization as the league evolves to establish a sound operational base that augments the sport's growth trajectory, if I said that right. Like I said, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think that anything right now that they feel will justify them and continuing to year 2, year 3, continuing to give people opportunities, players, staff, coaches, all of that, game day staff, ticket sales staff, the announcers, the commentators, the in-stadium hosting experiences, any of that stuff, anything they need to do. If they feel like Redbird is saying we need to cut costs right now to maintain. We've seen the USFL go through this. As long as it doesn't affect, the product on the field, I think we'll be in good hands. Obviously, we're going to continue to monitor this, but I just wanted to get my 2 cents on that here. Like I said, didn't feel like there was enough for a full segment today, but I obviously wanted to share my thoughts on that. So, like I said, please like and subscribe. Lots of CFL content this week. We'll get, continuing on the XFL bandwagon right now when news dictates and kind of justifies that. But like and subscribe. We'll see you at the end. Thanks. Well, this man's had an interesting morning here. Appreciate Jeff Hamilton coming on. I will say I felt like Leonardo DiCaprio, the meme where he's like sitting on the couch pointing at the TV. I was watching Zach Collaros' post-press conference. Was it 2 weeks ago with the headbutt heard around the world? I go, that's Jeff. Jeff's, what are they going to do? I don't know what they're going to do. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, really good, man. Like you said, a little bit of an adventure this morning with a car collision, but all in all, safe, happy to be on here and looking forward to talking 3-down football, man. It's been a while. I've obviously been listening and whatnot, but feels great to be on and talking about the league we love covering.
Yeah, it's good here. So, life is good in Winnipeg. I wanted to get your thoughts first on this because the Labor Day game was great. I was able to listen to that. I was filming and I had it up on my like headphones. Winnipeg losing that, right? And then coming back and really just kind of kicking the snot out of Saskatchewan last week. What did you make of that?
You know what? It was personal. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, that was an extremely disappointing loss, as you alluded to. Just seconds ago about the Labor Day Classic, and of course the Pete Robertson headbutt heard round the CFL, and of course the post game chatter. I mean, Zach Collaros is a fiery guy, but I've never seen him that livid, that angry, and of course he was not happy with the Pete Robertson headbutt, and he's been a guy who's been very vocal about protecting quarterbacks and the league not doing enough to protect their best players, and it was one of those where it was like. He was really mad about the headbutt. That was personal to him. He's been very vocal about the CFL and not protecting its best players. So he took that opportunity, but make no mistake, man, he was incredibly upset about the offensive effort, the inconsistency. I mean, they still came within a 2-point convert of tying that game and pushing it to another overtime and certainly could have won that game. even not playing at their best. But Zach Collaros took the uncharacteristic step after the game and addressed the team. Look, this guy is an absolute leader. He's the unquestionable leader on the team, but he's a lead by example guy. So very rarely does he address the team. He addressed the team after the Labor Day Classic, just said to them, I'll sum it up pretty much was, hey, what an awful game we played. We did not live up to our standards. We have an opportunity in a week's time to make things right. We better be taking full advantage. And, the Bombers are so good at the whole 1-0 process, at the whole boring, we're focused on us and not getting too high with the wins and not getting too low with the losses. But there was a burning fire in Zach Collaros and the team all week. They just didn't share it. They took their opportunity at IG Field Saturday afternoon in the Banjo Bowl, and did they ever answer back? I mean, this is a team that had slow starts the last 4 games, and all of a sudden we look, okay, first drive, 1 touchdown, second drive, 2 touchdowns. Okay, I guess they got the memo about the slow starts. By halftime, they have gone 6 for 6, and it was nearly a perfect half. And I mean, there was only 9 points scored all by the Bombers in the final 2 quarters, but what an answer for them. And I mean, not that it was surprising. I thought that the Riders would have a bit more confidence. Maybe they had too much confidence. I thought they'd be better off in that game, but certainly the crowd played a role, and the Bombers just did an old-fashioned shit kicking, as we saw.
It's weird to me because, and I want to talk about BC here in a little bit, but, I don't think that BC has carried losses well into the next week. Like Rick's, we got to kind of forget about that. Like, I think you need to carry over some of that sometimes. And I like hearing that Winnipeg, like, we play like duty here. We want to come back in. What was weird was, at least during the Labor Day game, Saskatchewan felt like a semblance of an actual football team, and like, Delegala is going to be good, and the defense and all this stuff, and then to completely kind of be locked down here. What do you make of Saskatchewan as a football team?
You know what? They're so confusing to me. I just you look at what they've gone through this year. There's no doubt about it. They've been hit by the injury bug. I mean, they lost obviously Trevor Harris to what looks like it's probably going to be a season-ending injury. He addressed the media, I believe, yesterday or a couple days ago and said he hopes to return, but doesn't look good. Then Mason Fine has a hamstring injury, and then they get forced on by Jake Dolegala, who, if you talk to a lot of people in Saskatchewan, they've been calling for this guy to be the quarterback from, maybe not from the beginning. Trevor Harris was certainly the guy they needed to get. They needed after last season's debacle, they needed that position to be consistent, right? I mean, Cody Fajardo, he's doing well in Montreal right now, but he just was a different cat last season. And by the end of the year, it was just, you need to shore up that position. So getting Trevor Harris was certainly the answer. I think Jake Dolegala is the future. I like what we saw from him. I mean, he did not look good against Winnipeg, and they did everything, in their power to stop him as a defense. That happens when your offense puts up that many touchdowns and you're forced to throw the ball. I mean, they would have thrown their game plan, I imagine, out the window by the 3rd drive because they were playing catch up. That forces them to throw. And like I said, IG Field was absolutely booming. It was sold out, very difficult to deal with the sound, much like the Bombers were dealing in Mosaic Stadium the week before. That's just very challenging. But I just don't know what to read on the Rough Riders. I came into the season extremely low on them. I didn't think Craig Dickinson would have a job by Labor Day weekend. I thought this was a show me kind of, well, it absolutely was a show me season for Jeremy O'Day and Craig Dickinson. They both don't have contracts for next season, and coming off an absolutely disappointing season where they didn't even make the playoffs in the year they were hosting the Grey Cup, I thought that was going to be the end of them. Now, looking at them, at 6-6, they were 6-5 hanging into this past weekend. That's about as good as I thought they would be. Are they a good team? No, but guess what? The rest of the West sucks. So they just sit there comfortably in 3rd place in the West at 6-6, and Calgary did themselves no favors. Edmonton as well, splitting that home and home series over the last 2 weekends. That's exactly what the Rough Riders were hoping for. So it just looks less like this team is all that threatening. I mean, they did have an impressive showing against Winnipeg, and we know how good the Bombers have been for years. So you got to give them credit for that, and you got to give them credit for going into BC and beating them as well. So, I think that, we've certainly seen, or no, that was actually at home. It was Hamilton that went into BC and gave them took their lunch money. But still, regardless, BC is a really good, talented team. So for them to go back to back, I think a lot of people were high on them, thought that perhaps even if they could somehow win last weekend, which they didn't even come close, that they were in conversations for maybe capturing the West. Well, slam back to reality. I do not look at this team as a juggernaut. I don't look at them as a threat. I look at the Bombers and the BC Lions in a class of their own, and then the Rough Riders in the mushy middle, and then the basement being Calgary and Edmonton. So I still don't. I think we're going to get a lot of answers, of who this Rough Riders team is here down the stretch. But my opinion, over the last 5 or 6 games, we're going to see a lot of what we predicted. Kind of a 500 team. They'll get into the playoffs, and I think there'll be an early exit against the Lions in that West semi.
Well, because that's my question. And we had some of the BC Lions staff down here for Mariners game this week, and we were talking kind of West finals. And, I have been a frustrated fan all year with BC and some of these very winnable games, right? Okay, Winnipeg, that's one thing, but, you need to beat Hamilton. You need to beat Saskatchewan here. And I don't know if Saskatchewan comes into BC, I don't think BC places this Lions have this incredible home field advantage there, right? If it'd be different if it was in Saskatchewan, I don't know. I mean, last year I saw Calgary fall to BC. I don't know. I mean, if Saskatchewan kind of gets their head out of their butt here, it could be kind of different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the CFL. You can change the narrative with one win each week. I mean, the Edmonton Elks lost their first 9 games and have won the last 3 of their last 4 games or whatever it is, and they're in conversation for the East, swing over. So it's like it really is a week to week thing, and we're getting to that time though where it's kind of the picture's kind of showing itself. I think the BC Lions are a fascinating team. You made a point earlier, Reed, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I've been saying it on every interview I have. The BC Lions are incredibly talented. They have continuity, which has been the Bombers' bread and butter for the last few years. So they have guys who have been in that locker room for years. The problem is they still are learning how to win and lose. You need to learn how to lose, but you also need to learn how to win games. And we saw that when the Lions put a beat down on the Bombers in week 3 this season. You had Alexander Hollins, who's been an absolute stud this year. He's probably far and away the best first year receiver, surprising receiver this year. But he's posting on social media 4 days later, we're gonna come into your house and do whatever we want. And I just that to me, I could never imagine. I mean, I got to compare him to the Bombers because that's the team that I cover, and that's the team that's been the class of the CFL. That would never happen. There was not a single guy on that locker room who 4 days later after a win would be celebrating it. And then what happens? They go into Toronto and they get their asses kicked. And then they come back to Winnipeg for the second round, and Winnipeg puts up a 50-burger on them. So to me, it's less about the talent for them. There's no doubt they have talent. I mean, they got great guys on the 6-game IR right now, and they're still a dangerous, lethal team, right? And I'm a fan of Vernon Adams. I think he's a good quarterback. I was wish-washy about him earlier in the season just because of his inconsistencies, but I think he's got that team. He's got the respect of that team. He's certainly their leader. It's just this is a club that I think is going to need to just be a little more mature. I know that's not a great thing to say about a team, but just from what I've seen this season, there's been some inconsistencies that get when your head gets a little too big, and that's the BC Lions for me right now. A very talented team. I would be worried about them playing them in the playoffs because it is any given Sunday, right? But at the same time, they're a team that gets a little bit too emotional at the wrong times, and that's really been the Bombers' bread and butter and why they've been so successful the last few years.
Well, I agree with that a lot. I had said this is, if you can't beat Ottawa at home this weekend, I mean, I would pack up the season and go home. I mean, if I was
Ottawa might be the new CFL's worst team. Are we there yet? I think we're there.
It feels that way. We could talk Ottawa too. It's just like you said. I don't know if there's something in that locker room. I don't know if it's Rick or I know Ryan Phillips, and if he's not getting them up, it just feels. I don't know, he's immature or whatever, that they can't, the game with Toronto, Vernon's throwing all the picks and they're freaking out. And we got to make a play. We got to make a play. Winnipeg, like you said, they'll start slow or they'll start down or they'll start. We're just going to march down the field and score. We're just going to march down the field. I don't know. BC, like you said, continuity, but they do feel very young and kind of frantic in that way too.
It feels like when the good times are rolling, everything's good, right? Yes. Everyone's eating, right? As long as everybody's eating, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy with what's going on. And when you see certain games a couple of weeks ago that, and that I think it was that Riders game or one after that, whatever. You had Alexander Hollins again. I don't mean to pick on him, but he's slamming his helmet down on the sidelines because they didn't convert, right? Or they fumbled that ball. I think Butler might have fumbled the ball. And so he's sitting there getting angry. You have Lucky Whitehead, who had an incredibly slow start to the season, tweeting out, "Peace, I'm out." And they had to explain what that was. And it was, it's a frustrated guy who's not getting his catches. Lucky has certainly improved over the last month. He's been getting more of those deep threat passes. He isn't quite the deep threat that he was even last season, but it's just, again, it kind of points back to the immaturity. And you look at a lot of like their social media and stuff, and they got great social media. Nick Kowalski does a great job out there. Obviously Matt Baker and what they do and bringing their team to their community, but it's all like, look at me, like I'm incredible. Like, it's just like, it might as well be like a hip hop music video every time they get on. It's just, you don't really see a lot of that in other markets. And while they are definitely, a flashy team and a top end talented team, I question just some of that composure and some of that maturity when the game really matters, right? Like, it's great if you can get up on teams and continue to roll and high-fiving. It's when you face that adversity in game that I start questioning maybe some of their antics and some of their maturity and why they haven't been able to be maybe as dominant as many people expected them to be this season.
I love Vernon. We've had him on. He lives not far from me here, in the off season, but I just, like, in my head, I can just picture, like, we're in IG Field here in a couple of months, and we're screaming and it's freezing cold, and he's just like, I can picture that in my head, right? Of him just, he, like I said, when it's rolling, Vernon's great and Vernon's cool and everyone loves Vernon, but it is, you're riding that roller coaster, and it just kind of depends what day you find him at, if that makes sense.
And that's the thing. How many games has he thrown for like 400 and something yards and lost? You know what I mean? That's like, they have an ability. That's the thing. They have the talent that if they get down in games, that they can claw their way back. They've proven a few times this year they haven't been able to get quite over the edge of big deficits, but just the fact that they put themselves in games where they look nowhere near competing through the first two quarters is a testament to their talent. It is interesting. I think it's one of those things too with the Lions, is that they have a lot of people that want the ball, right? And Winnipeg has the same problem, right? They have guys, when you have guys like Dalton Schoen, Kenny Lawler, Nick Dembski, Brady Oliveira, even guys like Rasheed Bailey and Drew Wolotarski. I mean, there's a lot of targets to go around, a lot of places to go around, but each and every game, regardless of how many catches a guy got or if a touchdown, it's always been about the team. It's not even one of those things where you go into the locker room, you can kind of see someone quietly seething or upset and stuff like that. It just doesn't exist, because at the end of the day, what matters is winning. And I mean, as obvious and as cliche as that sounds, it's those teams that are able to kind of put that in their, the top of their priority and not talk about individual stats. Individual stats will come with winning. And I think that's the thing the Bombers have been able to do and latch onto and be successful by, is that understanding that, well, it might be Kenny Lawler's week one week, it might be Nick Dembski's week the next week. It might be Nick Dembski was the one, he got one target for 8 yards last game, but he led the team with 120 yards in the Labor Day Classic loss. Like, it's just going to be different week to week. And I think that maturity and that continuity and that leadership group that, you mentioned, like Ryan Phillips and some of those guys, and then some of the players out there, like, they have a lot of leaders, right? They have guys that are leaders. It's just about getting everybody on board. And I'm not trying to make this a BC Lions have a broken locker room. That's not the case at all. I just think they have a bit of a different philosophy, that allows maybe a few more cracks to come in when it comes to those times of adversity in every single game that you play.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happened to the Donut Boys? that was
Someone, I'm gonna screw it up, but it went from the Donut Boys, the Donut Boys to the 50 Burger.
Yeah.
So it was So it was, and I played that up too. I love that. I mean, I love that part of the CFL. I'm not trying to dull the league, right? I'm not trying to have every team be a 1-0 whatever. You want to see personality. And certainly there's a lot of personality on BC, but maybe some of the times that personality gets in the way a little bit.
In terms of Winnipeg here, your team going into Hamilton, they're having a rough season is probably be an understatement. And I had said in the pregame, our CFL pregame here many, many weeks ago, I said, feels very similar to Aaron Rodgers going into the Jets here. We got Bo Levi going in, and both here injuries for older quarterbacks. What do you make of Winnipeg coming? I don't know if there's a world where Winnipeg loses this game, but what are you making of the matchup?
You know what? I'm with you. I think it's a beatdown. Like, I think there was a bit of a lesson learned from the Labor Day Classic, and I don't think it was a 1 week lesson. I think this is, them priming down the stretch here, and they want to be playing their best football, and they want to be locking up the West. I mean, that's their ticket, right? You talk about BC Place, the comfortable confines of BC Place, and although I'm sure there's some teams that would like to play there versus Calgary or Winnipeg outdoors in November, that's the ultimate advantage Winnipeg has, is their crowd and their, and the fact that they have players who have been around for years and have played in that cold. So anyways, I think they're going to be motivated for sure this week. It's not forgotten on them. Last season, they were going, they were riding high and went into Hamilton last year, and Dane Evans had the game of his life. I think he threw 5 touchdowns, and I've never seen Mike O'Shea that angry after a game. And so I don't think it's lost on them what they did. I think Hamilton is reeling. Hamilton should be a much better team than they are based on their roster. They remind me of the 2017 Toronto Argonauts, who as you know, went on to win the Grey Cup that year. They bought a team in the offseason. They brought all these big names, managed to keep, a lot of their stars, brought on Bo Levi Mitchell. I always thought that was a mistake. No offense to Bo, but I just felt I was expecting to see him in a TV booth, not behind center this season. But certainly I think the Bombers are going to be motivated. They gave up a game against the Riders that put them in a position, where they can't really have many more mistakes as if they want to clinch the West as early as they have the last couple of seasons. So I see a massively motivated team. And while Taylor Powell has done some cool things with Bo Levi out, and to be honest with you, man, I think the quarterbacking with all the injuries has been a blessing this season, because we're seeing a lot of young guys. I just don't think that it's going to be the Taylor Powell led Hamilton Tiger Cats that teach the Bombers another lesson this season.
Yeah, what do you make of that? We've had Crum, and he's kind of, it was kind of high and a little bit of a crash in Taylor Powell, and then obviously Trey Ford has seen that, and we've talked about, like, it feels like it's kind of a new ushering here.
I absolutely love it, and that's exactly what it is, in my opinion. I think it's a new ushering of the new age quarterbacks, and I was writing about this during the offseason, and certainly leading up to week 1, was the CFL has a quarterback problem. You know what I mean? Like, you had guys like Bo Levi Mitchell signing for 3 years after horrendous 2 seasons. Like, the fact that they thought, like, and that's kind of the media and hyping up guys and putting them at the top of their free agent lists and whatnot. I mean, I know Bo wasn't a free agent. Hamilton went after him and got his rights at the end of last season, but it looked like they were just recycling. And then Trevor Harris goes over to Saskatchewan to save them. And then Cody Fajardo heads over to Montreal. And then Vernon Adams is back in BC. And while Vernon Adams, I don't necessarily put with the rest of that group, I think he still has a lot to, I still think he's got a lot in the engine, is certainly a prolific and entertaining quarterback. I just felt like it was just a bit dull. And the reality is that without those injuries, the coaches don't make those decisions. I talked to Craig Dickinson in Labor Day. I've talked to other coaches, Jason Moss, like other guys, about how conservative head coaches are in giving guys, backups opportunities, because at the end of the day, like, you ride or die with your quarterback. And if you're a coach and you're trying to make the playoffs and keep your job, and if you're in the last year of your contract, or in the 1 more year remaining, and you're looking for an extension, like, you need results. So it's a gutsy move to go to an inexperienced guy. But here we are in Ottawa. It took an injury to Jeremiah Masoli. It took Nick Arbuckle to continue to suck. It took Tyree Adams to tear his ACL. And now we got Dustin Crum, who, has certainly showed some mistakes and inconsistencies in his first year. It's his first season in the CFL. Like, this guy hasn't had a ton of time, but you look at the comfort. And I say that about Taylor Powell. I say that about Caleb Evans, who played well with Cody Fajardo out of the lineup. I say that with Jake Dolegala. I say that with Drew Brown in Winnipeg. Like, we now have, like, it's going to be a fascinating offseason as teams retool and figure out their futures, because I don't think Jeremiah Masoli comes back just because of, the back-to-back injuries and just how difficult it was for him to get back from his knee injury. I don't know if he's got the ability to come back from an Achilles. I wish him the best, and hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't see it. Trevor Harris is getting upwards of 40 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like is he going to be the right answer? Like, do you want to go back to a guy? I know they're really high on him. I've seen him around Mosaic. I mean, he's hugging team personnel and whatever. They like what he brings, but is he the right football move to make? And that's to assume that Craig Dickinson and Jeremy Day are even going to be in the building next year to even make that decision. So, I mean, they obviously have a commitment to him. In football, you can bail anytime. But that's an interesting one. And so I think there's going to be, whereas at the beginning of the season, it looked like there were too many old retreads from team to team. There now looks like it's an exciting offseason of quarterbacks. And I'll be very curious of the 9 teams and who their starters are, because I like Jake Mayer too. He hasn't had a great game in Calgary. I wouldn't be giving up on him just yet. But at the same time, I also wouldn't look at his job and say it's all that secure either.
Trevor Harris is older than me, which is insane to think that I very nearly tore something in the back of my leg filming the wedding this year, walking on gravel. So God forbid, I mean, it happens to us. Last thing before we get out of here, Edmonton here coming in, Saskatchewan, bouncing back maybe, but Trey Ford's got a lot of momentum there. What are you making of that one?
Man, I really like Trey Ford. I just, I think it looked like he learned how to throw last week and add that to his arsenal. So I think, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not the first person to say this and I won't be the last. I can't believe the Elks, talk about being conservative. You went with Taylor Cornelius. Yes, you committed money to him, but you stayed with him that long because you felt like he was your best option. And you did. Chris Jones obviously did not want to hand the ball to a Canadian, quarterback who hasn't had a lot of experience. He didn't want to go down with that ship after already losing, right? And now here we are. He's giving this team a fighting chance to maybe even make the playoffs. So I think they're going to make the playoffs? Absolutely not. But I do think they're headed in the right direction. I think it's one of those games where, both teams are going to be up. Both teams feel pretty desperate. Like the Riders are not, while they're comfortably in third place, they lose to Edmonton and all of a sudden it's a little bit more reachable. At the same time, if the Riders can beat the lowly Elks, as we've called them all season, they put themselves in a great spot. They continue to separate themselves, and so there's a lot to play for from both sides. But if you're asking me and Yar, I'm going with the Elks this week. I think the Elks come in, they ride their momentum, they ride their confidence. It's nothing to lose. They're playing playoff football 2 weeks ago. So they might hit fatigue by the end of the regular season if they can do it. But at this point in time, I think they're super desperate. And the way that Trey Ford is playing, I just like him a bit more than the Jake Dolegala-led Riders.
Yeah, I mean, it went from Chris Jones needs to be fired, and this is, how quick can we get the salary cap and all of this? And now it's like, man, these Elks actually look pretty good. So Chris
Jones just got to stop being GM. You know what I mean? I think he's a great talent evaluator. I think he's proven to be a bad GM. He's a good head coach. He could probably do a little less on the turnover, but, players respect him. All players, for the most part. I haven't heard a single guy say they don't like him, even if they've been cut. But it's the too many roles, man. That's the problem in Edmonton.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate it. You're making the time today with everything going on. We'll see you, I assume, here in Hamilton, and we'll see Winnipeg and BC. It could be exciting, but we'll see you in November at the minimum. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, Reed, thanks so much, man. It's always a blast hanging out and talking 3-down football with you.
Well, here we are back. We had this gentleman on during the our kickoff, I believe, for the CFL. We have Dan Ralph here. Hopefully, we'll be seeing you back up here in Hamilton in a very short time. How are you doing, sir?
Everything's great. Fun time of year.
Yeah, well, you said that you like this time of year because it seems to matter more. I mean, they've told us, games don't matter until after Labor Day. What are your thoughts right now? We're walking into week 15 of the CFL.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see some really interesting trends now with two teams having clinched. And then this weekend, the Toronto Argonauts have an opportunity to clinch first in the East. Then you're going to have, playoff runs for second, third in the respective divisions, and also, the potential crossover, which is something we always go through. And then we also see on an individual basis some of the the players separate themselves in the respective individual honors races. So yeah, it's a fun time. I mean, I'm still figuring out where the heck the summer went, but then in November I'm going to be sitting there wondering where the heck the season went, because everything just goes by so fast.
Well, and it seems like I don't know. To me, it seems to be clicking a little bit more. I mean, we entered all of this through the COVID year, and then it kind of slow start. I mean, it feels like back on track. There hasn't been a lot of like weird, controversial or weird. I don't know. It seems like it's been a pretty copacetic, safe season here rolling through.
Yeah, so far, it's been a very we've been able to, and I say that because there's talk of a new variant coming into Canada, and who knows. Let's hope. But yeah, it's been nice to just concentrate on football and not have to worry about all the other stuff. And crowds in Hamilton are solid, it seems, and crowds in Toronto seem to be on the upswing, which is a nice thing to see as well. So yeah, let's hope it stays that way. I mean, for the sake of the Hamilton Grey Cup Festival, 2 years ago they had the Grey Cup and couldn't have a normal Grey Cup with all the fan activities because of the pandemic, and so now they're hosting the game again for the second time, and they have lavish plans for a terrific festival, and here's hoping that they're allowed to go ahead with it.
Yeah, we're, I guess, supposed to have someone on from the festival here soon. They had said to me to kind of promote that. Anything interesting you're hearing from that?
I'll be honest, I haven't really concentrated on it. I'll concentrate more on it as we get closer to Grey Cup.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Social media is the bane of my existence, but everybody and their brother has been, all summer touting player A, B, C, and D as, the front runners for the respective individual awards. And I don't even begin thinking about it until now. And I'll be honest, I haven't really seriously thought about it. And I will as we get closer. But yeah, I mean, as we get closer to Grey Cup, same sort of deal. I'll start looking at some of the other things, and fingers crossed that they're able to have a normal Grey Cup.
In terms of Toronto here, obviously, I think this is one of the more marquee games this weekend, the Friday game going into Montreal. I'll get your thoughts on Montreal separately, but obviously Toronto, kind of historic run right now. We had Mike Hogan on last week, kind of categorizing that. What do you make of them and what they've been able to put together?
They've been very, very impressive, and they're 10-1 right now. And I could make the argument they could ideally be 11-0 if Chad Kelly doesn't get hurt in that game against Calgary, because it was only a 7-point game a 3-point game at that point when he left. So yeah, I mean they're really, the thing that impresses me the most about them is they're strong on offense, they're strong on defense, and then they've got really good special teams. So if one game, the defense has allowed 30 plus points, they have an offense that can put up 35 and sort of, hide that. And if the offense is struggling, they can win ugly with the defense and a timely return from Javon Leake, who has a club record 4 punt return touchdowns this year. So I just think they can beat you so many ways. And if all three phases haven't clicked at the same time, to me, that proposition is a little scary about what damage they can do if all 3 phases of their game are clicking simultaneously. But they've got 3 elements to their attack that are very, very potent. And now on any given time, one of those 3 can take over a game.
Not looking too far ahead, like we said, but, Grey Cup here, presumed favorite in the East, and I want to get your thoughts on Montreal. But last year we were there, and it felt to me like an upset that Toronto comes in, and all this stuff with McLeod and Chad Kelly and everything, like a very different just opinion of this team going into the kind of the end game of this season, if that makes sense.
Well, it's funny. Winnipeg and Toronto meet later on down the stretch, and that's the game that I'm really looking forward to, because it could be another Grey Cup preview. And at the beginning of the year, I really said I wouldn't be surprised if those 2 teams made it again. And I fully expect, I'll reiterate, I fully expect a Winnipeg, Toronto Grey Cup again in 2023. I mean, I'm sure the BC Lions and Montreal Alouettes will have something to say about that. and we'll see where they are, where both teams are in terms of injuries. But right now, I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that they're the top two teams, and I fully expect to see them in November.
Yeah, that's the thing. We do our Monday recaps right now, and we can't figure out, like, are the Montreal Alouettes second in the East? Like, are they a good team? Or what do you think?
Well, I will say this. I mean, they've lost 3 straight. And so 3 weeks ago, I was marveling at the job that Jason Moss had done with that team. And I still think to me, they're the second best team in the East. I don't think there's a doubt. And I like the way they match up against Toronto. It's just that they've never been able to put it together. I mean, last week, they got beat 39-10. They had 4 turnovers, some really costly penalties, not the least of which was Austin Mack being ejected for his involvement in the melee in the first quarter, which took away their biggest playmaker. So I still am waiting for the Alouettes, like Toronto, to put it all together. They hold the promise to me of being a very, very good football team. I mean, they've taken care of business in the East Division. The only team that they've lost to so far is Toronto. So, I mean, to me, they're the number 2 team. But until they start beating a Winnipeg or a Toronto or maybe even a BC, then I think they're in that second tier. And but to me, they're a bona fide playoff team, and they're a team that if Toronto plays in the East Final, they'll be prepared, because that team, is made to be successful in cold weather with its ability to run the football.
It's just funny. We talk, like Montreal's really good unless they have to play BC, Winnipeg, or Toronto. It's like,
yeah, that's what I mean. They're that second tier, right? We're the best of the tier 2.
We've seen Cody, obviously from Saskatchewan, go over. We had him back on the show a couple weeks ago, and he, was hurt and then came back, and Caleb Evans. And there was, it was like the short week, and he came back, and then he had a full week, and they still lost. Like, in terms of Cody with this team, is he still a bona fide kind of superstar here? Like, what do you make of his presence in the CFL?
Well, I still think he's a good starter, but I mean, and I think maybe I could make the argument that sometimes he holds on to the ball way too long, because he had a problem with sacks last year with Saskatchewan, and Montreal has a problem giving up sacks again this year. And what's the common denominator there? And in both instances, it's Cody. And sometimes he's either got to get rid of the ball and settle for what he can get, or take what a defense is giving, or throw it away. And I just. If the more hits he takes, the more apt he is to get hurt. And if he gets hurt, then I think they're not as good a team without him as they are with him. So I still think he's a decent CFL starter. I think he's a bona fide CFL starter. But sometimes, the best option is to live to play another down rather than go for the whole enchilada. But having said that, if I had Austin Mack as a receiver, maybe I would hold on to the ball too.
It's just hard. Like, I think, obviously we were expecting a lot kind of this year with him moving in, and there was all the drama with Saskatchewan. I don't know. I mean, I like the Alouettes. Like I said, second in the East, like there's nothing wrong there, but it feels like we're walking into this East Final buzzsaw regardless. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think they're among the better teams in the East. We'll see this weekend. I mean, even if they beat Toronto's won the season series, so I would still expect Toronto to be the favorite at home in November, especially given that the Argos can run the ball too. The Argos have a running quarterback. The Alouettes have a semi-mobile quarterback. So I would like that matchup, but I would still take Toronto 9 times out of 10.
In terms of the East teams here, Hamilton, kind of on life support, and I want to talk Ottawa as well, but, coming in and, they eke out the win in Ottawa last week. Talk about expectations for the season kind of just falling apart here. And, we still, I guess Bo Levi is, waiting in the wings or whatever. But what have you made of this whole experiment this year? Very reminiscent of kind of the New York Jets here with Aaron Rodgers and injuries in terms of Bo Levi.
Well, in a perfect world, I would have said, and I wrote it yesterday, in a perfect world, Taylor Powell would have been given the opportunity to watch from the sidelines and see how Bo Levi and Matt Schultz play the game and adjust slowly to the nuances of Canadian football. Instead, injuries have sort of thrust him into the limelight. And I mean, the kid has done well, considering he's a bona fide rookie, considering he's never played Canadian football before coming up here. And, and he showed me some moxie last week where, and in fact, that whole team did, where, they're coming off, they're playing their second game in 4 days and they beat an Ottawa team that was coming off a bye. So, I mean, I think the one thing Hamilton has shown this year is resiliency. And, they go into BC and get a big win against the Lions when me and others did not see it coming. And they go in on 4 days' notice, play a team that's more rested, and they eke out a win. So I mean, they've been resilient. I think I don't see them finishing second. I see them at best finishing third and having to go on the road in the playoffs. So I do see them as the number 3 team in the East. There's no doubt there.
I know, you talk resilient, because there's been calls, for even more staffing changes than they've had in Hamilton. And, it's really last year was kind of a failure and, coming off of the Grey Cup and, appearance and everything. I just don't know really what to make there. I mean, obviously they made the big swing this year. I don't know. It's kind of like with Ottawa, what is Bob Dice supposed to do, Mazzoli and everything, and we'll get to them. But, Hamilton's been dealt a really difficult hand here.
Yeah, I mean, They put all their eggs in. To me, they put their eggs in the Bo Levi basket, and and unfortunately, he's been hurt twice, and that's not really and that's really a big blow when your number 1 quarterback plays let's say 3 games of your 12 so far, and your number 2 has been hurt most of the year, and you're starting a bona fide CFL rookie at quarterback. And so, yeah, I think, like I said, they've been resilient, and I like Tommy Condell as a person. I like him as an offensive coordinator, but obviously they had to make a change there. And I like the promotion of Scott Milanovich to play caller. He's got a good CFL coaching pedigree. He's handled offenses. He's won Grey Cups. He's to me, I think he's certainly going to step in and give them experience and a good base from which to call plays. It's just, you just hope that he can turn that offense around. And the problem I see with the Ticats is their offensive line. I mean, Ed Figueroa, who was a big addition. Figueroa was a big addition to them in the offseason. And unfortunately, he's been hurt most of the year. And, they've had some issues establishing the run. Now, of late, James Butler has really done well. And, but they lost some key components in the offseason. And, we'll see. I mean, they got a rookie quarterback, and we'll see. Let's just leave it at that.
Butler's kind of been a revelation there. And I mean, it really is a lot. Sometimes the only thing that it seems like they can do on offense sometimes and you hear, the commentators and, well, they're trying to get away from, trying to reestablish the run game and, get away from maybe, I guess, the old June Jones stuff up there and be a little bit more offensive that way. It just doesn't feel like they have much of an identity. And I think they had, obviously, like you said, a lot wrapped into, we're going to bring in Bo Levi and have this superstar quarterback, and it all kind of falls apart.
Yeah, I like the addition of Butler in the offseason. I thought he was a really, really solid player with BC last year, and he showed against his former team that he can be a dominant running back. And, it's funny, Hamilton hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver or 1,000-yard rusher since something like 209, 210. And I think this guy gave them a bona fide 1,000-yard rusher, and I think he will hit 1,000 yards on the ground, which is something they haven't had in a long, long time.
In terms of the Ottawa team, kind of this was a must-win, really, with Hamilton coming in. And what do you attribute that to? I mean, we had this little sugar rush of the Dustin Crum, and then it's all kind of falling apart now.
Yeah, I like the Dustin Crum story, and I think what he's done is he has at least kept that team in games. I mean, they've lost, I think, 5 or 6 in a row. But take a look. They haven't been blown out at all. If they have been, it hasn't been often. He keeps them in the game. But I think the thing that that I keep coming back to is that I really I haven't seen a really consistent passing game from him. He runs well. He's as good a running quarterback as you're going to find. And I think he anchors a pretty good ground game. But the thing is, they get behind, and and I think they show their warts when they can't, throw the ball consistently to come back. And last week, this is the one thing that I drew from it. Nate Bahar, their Canadian receiver, early last week went on record and called the Ticats dirty on defense. They said that they play dirty and made that insinuation. And I really, I really questioned A, the timing, and B, the logic of that, because he was playing a team that was coming off such a very short turnaround. Why would you give them incentive to win, and more incentive to win, especially after a very physical loss against Toronto? And to me, I thought that could come back and bite him and them, and it did, because Hamilton, to me, played inspired football, kept it close, and then found a way at the end to go ahead and to take the win. And to me, you don't give your opponent more incentive to come into your stadium and deal your playoff aspirations a severe blow.
That's interesting. I missed that story this week. I must not have seen that with it.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. Tim Baines of the Ottawa Sun did a nice job of writing it, and I questioned the logic of Bahar. If you believe that and if you think that, that's one thing. But to me, you keep it quiet, because you don't, that goes out there, and that to me is prime bulletin board material. And you don't want to give an opponent that's hurting and is tired, the extra incentive to rise above that adversity.
I like that. I like the little bit of locker room chat. That's, to me, I like that. I like the drama.
As a reporter, I looked and I went, "Oh, Tim, you dude, go with it, go with it."
In terms of Ottawa, it's like back-to-back years now, and we had the Mazzoli stuff last year, obviously again this year. And I don't know, obviously we got rid of Lapo last year, and Bob Dice comes in, and now he's got all this and dealing. I don't know who would maybe right the ship better in this situation. Like, what does Ottawa do next year? Because obviously this season is kind of a wash. How do they rebound?
Well, that's a really good question. I think a healthy Jeremiah Mazzoli might help, because I mean, in close games, you got a guy who's been there, done that. Now, having said that, he's missed 2 straight years with season-ending injuries, and he's getting older. But I mean, I don't bet against that guy. He has shown time and time again, in my humble opinion, that he can overcome, and he'll be back on the field in 2024. I think that's a starting point. If he's healthy, he's a very, very good quarterback. I think Dustin Crum becomes your number 2, and he's benefited from all this, being thrown into the limelight. And I like their defense. I just wonder sometimes if that defense is just getting beat into submission and is on the field way too much. And and Ottawa they don't lose games as much as they run out of time, right? And so they're in it. I've sat there and I've seen multiple games now where Crum has put the team on his back in the fourth quarter and either forced overtime and won there, or come close to forcing overtime or securing the win. And I think the more experience he gets, that helps him. But let's not forget, he is arguably their third or their fourth quarterback on the depth chart when they started the season. So, the fact that he's starting suggests that there's been problems at that position.
I think it was earlier this season we had Naylor on and talking about how the secondary, the backup quarterback situation in most teams in the CFL now has kind of evolved to just being the short yardage person, right? There's not a lot of learning there. And we've seen so much this season, all these quarterbacks, like you said, Taylor Powell kind of being thrown in, and Dustin Crum, and obviously injuries, have occurred to make that happen, but you just wish there was a way for some of these guys, because I've just heard for years, it takes 3 years to really learn the CFL game, and it's you can't just come in and if there was some way, we've talked in the past, do you want to have a quarterback academy like the XFL does, where we kind of work with some of these guys, like something to get these guys more up to speed than just baptizing with fire here in the middle of the game, right?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? And I'll be honest, I don't know what the answer is. I do know, excuse me, a lot of guys this year, if you've given them the opportunity, they've shone with it. And I look at Trey Ford in Edmonton. Here's a guy who was, firmly tied to the bench until basically the Elks had no choice but to start him, and they've won all 3 games with him at quarterback. So, and then I look at Saskatchewan. I mean, they're on their number 3 guy too, and Dolegala seems to be playing very, very well. So. The only team I thought that was really good at the backup position to start the year, the only teams were BC with Dane Evans and Hamilton with Schultz. And I hold my breath with Toronto because behind Chad Kelly, there's no dearth of CFL experience. And I mean, that kid to me has been a godsend for the Argos. And if heaven forbid something happens to him, they become a vastly different football team. But yeah, you're right. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. And I wish I knew, because, it seems to be if you get past the team's starting quarterback, there's a noticeable drop off with the backup guy.
Well, because even with, obviously Trey Ford had the experience of playing U Sports, right?
Yeah.
And where maybe that made the transition a little bit better. Yeah, Delegala's, I don't even know where he was born, somewhere in America, but it's in New York, whatever. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that, where and maybe now after this year, maybe next year there'll be a dearth of great quarterback play from some of these guys. Because I remember we had Steve Simmons on, and he said, it was right after the Crumsanity kind of thing. And he goes, yeah, it was the most exciting weekend of the CFL all year. But I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing here. Because we've just kind of had a lot of erratic where, sometimes the results are there and it's kind of you're getting your sugar rush and you're not worried about kind of the long term. Like, what does that mean? I don't know.
And Steve was right. I mean, it's always neat when a young kid comes off the bench and sparks a team to a thrilling victory. And then the next week, the team that they're playing has film on the kid, and all of a sudden he looks rather ordinary, right? So, and that's the thing I have found with Taylor Powell, for example, that, he came on, he did well in his first appearance. Then he had, as teams get more familiar with him, then it's harder for him to do the things that he did well in the first game. But I mean, last week he showed me something with his ability to keep Hamilton close, and then lead them over the top. And 300-yard performance for a rookie is always impressive.
Well, Dan, I appreciate it making the time today. Should be good games this weekend. We'll be up in Hamilton. I'm sure we'll see you there. Try to get you on. We'll do our show again. We have our whole crew coming up this year. We have a team. Anything else from you? Anything you're looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, I think I said Ed Figueroa when I was meant to talk about Joel Figueroa. I think I got Ed mixed up with a baseball pitcher.
That's
a baseball player. Yeah, so it was Joel Figueroa. But no, you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing Toronto's going to be minus, some Robertson Daniel in their secondary and Curly Gittins Jr. in the offense when they play Montreal. So those are two starters and 2 big players, and so they got a little bit of adversity going into Montreal, and so we'll see. I wonder if clinching this early is a boon or a bad thing for them, because now all of a sudden you got 6 weeks of not meaningless games, but they mean more to your opponents, and now you're playing guys hoping not to get them hurt, and so I don't know about being able to turn it on with a light switch. So I'd like to see them clinch, but then that creates a whole new bunch of problems for head coach Ryan Dinwiddie.
That is interesting because it's kind of like when the Chiefs do that when they always lock up like AFC 1 seed or whatever, and they go, "We're going to sit." You always, rest versus rust, and 1 week is fine. Like you said, 6 weeks or whatever is vastly different there. And I don't know. Yeah, does Chad Kelly touch the field for the next month?
So and I think he does, but how much? And when? And so do you give the backups? The start and the bulk of play. And like right now, this offense seems to be running like a well-oiled machine. What happens when you take some of the key parts out? And I mean, like I said, I've never been a proponent of offenses being able to flick a switch. So it's a problem, but I think Coach Dinwiddie will tell you it's not a bad problem to have.
Not a bad problem to have. All right, Dan, I appreciate it. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Be well. Thank you.
Well, here we are. I think I've actually been trying to get you on the show since last year with Francis and everyone over at the Montreal Alouettes. We have Almondo Sewell here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How's everybody doing?
We're good. Excited. Montreal, that's our East team here in the CFL. You guys have a big game Friday. Francis wanted to make sure I mentioned BMX night. There's going to be special discounts and things like that. A big game for you guys. How's the team looking forward to it?
Team's looking really, really good. Really, we're looking forward to it to see what's going to happen next. It was pretty embarrassing last game. We are aware of that. So, it's exciting to go back out there and get a second chance. You don't get those two things a lot, play them back to back.
In terms of your life right now with the season, how's everything going for you?
Yeah, it's okay. I can't ask more. We're in a very good position right now as far as football-wise go. You just have to take one game at a time. We control our destiny right now.
In terms of, like you said, coming off some rough games, how do you guys and how does the team kind of, cope or kind of move through that? How do you process that?
You just got to put on just got to go back to work, figure out what went wrong. It's the only thing you could do, right? It was embarrassing. Like, everybody just got to take that one on the chin and just, figure out what went wrong, adjust the game plan, and get ready for this week.
Embarrassing in what way? How do you view it as embarrassing?
We got blown up. Couldn't stop a nosebleed if we tried to. So it was just one of those things right there. I had plenty of those in my playing career, and the best way to come back from those is to go back out there and hit them back with that same thing that they hit us with last week. Try to get them back.
In terms of, kind of the scouting report on the Argos, tough team, what do you guys view at that? And how do you kind of take it upon yourself here to kind of be a part of strong defense?
They're a well put together team, they use everybody. And it's not just one guy is always a key guy on their roster. They use everybody in the receiving core. All those guys are all asked to block at some period of time. Usually, you know where your breakers are coming from. And that's the receivers coming out of the air, blocking the DN, blocking the D tackle. They use all their receivers to do that stuff. So it's one of those things right there you could almost anticipate with a lot of teams. With this team right here, they very seldomly make mistakes. So you have to be on your P's and Q's, make sure you know where your plays are. Dinwiddie has those guys over there all tuned in. So it's one of these things right here. You have to do your job. If you do your job, you'll be all right. And this weather's on. Yeah.
How impressed has the Argos been this year? Certainly one of the, them or Winnipeg, one of the top teams. How do you view them just overall kind of in the CFL?
They won a Grey Cup last year and they retained a lot of their players, right? So, there was always the big if with them. Are they going to be as good as last year? Because, with Bethel being gone, we wouldn't think that Chad Kelly would be playing this good. But, here we are right now, and he rarely makes mistakes. The guy, and their offensive line is pretty good too as well. They lead the league in least amount of sacks by quite a big margin. So it's one of those things right there where you keep looking, you have your chance to get back there and actually call something, but the guy always seems some way to get rid of the ball so fast.
Scouting report on Chad, like you said, coming off of last year, I didn't really know what to expect. How do you kind of process that and to kind of internalize what you need to do?
You process it you have to you see what you see every week, right? You have to just go off what you see at the moment. But now he's put together enough games right now we can actually look and like have like a decent report on him. He's a savvy guy. He can actually play. It's not a lot of young guys you can actually say that could play though.
You've been a part of the CFL for a really long time. What is it, about the league, about everything that kind of keeps you motivated, keeps you coming back? Because, I mean, you've been years now.
Yeah, it's a competition, man. It's every year it changes. I'm a competitor, so I want to go out there. I want to smash some heads. This is one of those things, and especially at the position I play, I can't necessarily avoid contact. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, I knew you were getting work done here when we were calling, trying to set up. How's the body feeling? How's everything going?
Body's good, just routine maintenance. That's all. I take care of myself, so that's actually the key right there to keep playing for so long. You gotta take care of yourself.
What do you do to take care of yourself? What's your routine?
Routine, I'll get up, if I need dry needling, I feel like I need dry needling, just keep my muscles loose. If I had to go get a massage, I get one at least one a week. So, you got to keep the body nice and loose. Make sure you're not all stiff, and that's how you get them getting hurt. So,
in terms of kind of the home and home here, is they're playing at BMO last week. What's it like going in there? I mean, obviously, it's kind of been a joke for a couple of years here, Argos and attendance, but the team's doing good. A loyal fan base. What's it like going in there?
Yeah, it's a little different, but you got to create that own atmosphere for your own self, right? I mean, if your team, if they don't have anybody at the stadium, that's okay. You got to make it home, You got to make your own atmosphere. You got to come bring out your own excitement, your own energy on the sidelines. I mean, they had a fairly decent crowd out there last when we were there just now, so that's good. But, here in Montreal, we always have a sold-out crowd in this place, so it's always better.
Well, yeah, so I was going to ask. So, obviously, this week, and they had sent over, it's going to be the BMX student tickets at $20. Beer will be sold at $5. Talk about, just the because you guys do have a very loyal fan base, very loud. We've got the horns and everything else there. What do you make of the Montreal home crowd?
Oh, it's very loud, man. That's what. It's one of those rare sights in the CFL where you don't see a lot of packed out stadium. They love their football over here in Quebec, so it's always nice when you're playing at home.
Do you enjoy that, the camaraderie of the kind of the CFL with the fan base and them? It's a smaller league, it's more intimate, right? It feels like the fans have a greater connection to the players and kind of access, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was exposed to that the whole time I was out west, right? I mean, it's the only professional league in the world, really, where everybody is just saying, fans are so close and all interconnected. I mean, you get as close as you want. You could get to know, people outside of like the organization. You don't have to just be around the same players over and over and over. Like some of my better friends in Alberta, I met them through, fans, regular, just one fans, and to this day, they're still my friends.
In terms of Montreal this year, a lot of excitement, right? Cody coming in and ownership, and just seems to kind of revitalization here on the East. Have you felt that, and how does the team kind of internalize that?
Yeah, we're still going. It's just like one of those things that where Cody came in. Cody's a good leader. He came in. He told us, we're gonna go through some ups and downs, but at the end of the day, as long as we all got each other back, we'll be all right.
Do you feel like he's kind of the locker room leader right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's quarterback one. As a quarterback, you are naturally supposed to be the leader, right? And he's embraced that role with us, and yeah.
What about on defense? Who kind of leads it? Is it you kind of as being with more experience? Who kind of leads the defensive side?
Everybody has their own say in it, like we have a whole entire team. If it was a whole entire team has their own opinion on, if you have something to share it, because everybody at the end of the day is a leader on the team, right? If you have your own, some guys might say more than most, but at the same point too, everybody has an opinion, like, because we got to be in this all together. Some of the better teams that I've played on, everybody has their own opinions, never like just one guy. Yeah, so it's all a bunch of leaders on the team.
When you see Chad Kelly getting one of these highest contracts, right, highest paid quarterback, does that give you extra incentive to kind of make his life more challenging?
Shoot, man, you're a quarterback. You already get paid more than the rest of us. The CFL. But I guess so.
I know there was kind of a controversial roughing the passer call at the end of the game last week. Thoughts on that and kind of coming back this week and getting revenge for everything?
They told me to stay away from those questions with that one.
That's okay. That's okay. Last thing for me, what are you hoping, besides a win, what do you want to see out of the team, out of the guys this weekend?
Yeah, I want to see the guys come out and give the same energy that we had in practice all week. Everybody pretty much was dialed. Everybody's dialed in. Everybody knew what they had to do. Coach Thorpe does a great job of making sure we understand what we have to do. Because like I said, last week is a bit of a crapshoot. Really, we kind of embarrassed ourselves out there. Not kind of, we did embarrass ourselves. So it's exciting to go back in now. So everybody has like a clear vision on what we need to get done this week. So it's exciting.
Well, it should be good. Like I said, BMX night there and cheaper student tickets and beer sales and stuff like that. So I hope it's a packed crowd. I hope you guys get one up on the Argonauts. I really appreciate your time today.
No problem, dude. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited. I spent some time with the America's CFL team, the BC Lions, their social team down here in Seattle on Monday for the Mariners game. We lost, but I think it was a victory here because we have Mathieu here. Been trying to get you on all season. You're a busy guy, having a great season. How are you doing, sir?
I am fantastic. How are you, Reed?
I'm good. Reading through everything, you're really, you've always performed well, right? And last year with BC and even before with Edmonton, kind of at a different level this year. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I would attribute it honestly to the whole group on the D-line. To be honest, what I tell people every time is when we arrived earlier this year, it really felt like it was the continuity of what we did last year. So we basically have the same group from last year. So we're just used to work together with Bowman, the D-line coach, the same system. So, I mean, it's little things, but not having to learn a new system. And we really felt it earlier on during training camp where, I mean, if I was taking an inside rush, I mean, automatically either Woody or Cherry or the guy playing with me just wrapping me already. So it really was just like a good flow going. We know how we work together. I think we're a good group with talented players, and we pride ourselves on just working hard. And, we use the word keep chopping wood all the time. And I think that we want to work hard. We want to win. We want to do good individually. But ultimately, I mean, I think the way we work together is really the key to our success and ultimately my individual success so far this year.
People are talking about BC and they have for years in building the defense up, but, in the same regards as Winnipeg and Toronto, kind of elite defenses. Do you take pride in that? What do you think about that? Just being, it's no small feat to kind of do what you guys are doing this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, defensively, obviously, I personally, I don't look at stats on like how many yards a game we're giving or rushing yards, passing yards, or all that stuff. But obviously, we want to be out there and we want to perform well. That's for sure. The way the season's been going so far, we got 6 games left, but the way we've been playing with the way VA has been playing on offense, I mean, we know that if we play a good game on defense, the chances are that we'll come out with a win with the way VA has been playing. So it's hard. It's a cliche, but an 18-game season is long, so it's hard. But you have to take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. We got Ottawa on Saturday, so it's just to be focused on the task ahead, not to see too far ahead. And to really be locked in. Sometimes it's hard with the routine and just the days seem to be the same over and over again. But I have the privilege to be there with a great group on defense, on the D-line, and we have fun together doing it. So it makes it easier for sure.
But yeah, playing Ottawa, big game. You got Dustin Crum coming in. He's kind of wily, right? I mean, he's known to run and scramble and kind of make movement. What are you looking at, and what are you expecting to be able to do on Saturday?
Yeah, well, it's our first time playing Ottawa. I mean, Dustin Crum, ever since he came in as the starting quarterback, I thought I mean, coming in already, he was really, really good. Obviously, he's athletic, but I think he's a smart quarterback, can make all the throws. So he's definitely a legit quarterback. But I mean, playing the quarterback position, I mean, no disrespect to anybody, but it's hard without the experience. So obviously, I think that if we put him into some more pressure situation, it's harder for a younger quarterback. But he's definitely somebody really, really talented. I think they might have somebody for the years to come, because I was really impressed personally with the way he led that offense. Big wins earlier on. I mean, they didn't show up in the past couple of weeks, but they've been holding on to some close games. So and it's the CFL, so everybody is talented. So in order to win that game, we really need to show up with passion, energy, and play a good football game, or else we won't have the result we want.
You're on the field kind of a scary person, just in terms of what you're able to do and running after people. Here you seem very, polite, soft-spoken. How do you kind of balance the two? It's interesting, when you see people on the field and then you talk to them here.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I think I've always been a high competitor. Growing up, played a lot of sports. Was a very, very sore loser. So I think that's just what it is. I don't know. I kind of feel the same way, where I like to joke around. I like to have fun, but I feel like I'm more poised off the field for sure. So yeah, I don't know why, but it's just the way I am.
Where do you find that intensity when it comes to being on the field? And because even if you're not getting at the quarterback, you're affecting the play, you're making the tackle. Like, how do you keep up that high level of intensity, I guess?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think it's habits. I've always been running hard to the ball. I think that's one of the keys to my success, and it's always been like that. I mean, growing up in high school, playing in high school, our defensive coordinator during our teams period or our defense period, he would always have us running around. He called it pursuit drill. So we would just get off to our assignment, do a drop down, and run like 30 yards down the field. And I don't know, I think I just liked it that way. And I feel that if I don't give it my all, I'm cheating myself. I'm cheating my teammates. And I mean, I know the work that I put in to be in that situation, to be able to play with the pro level in the CFL. So, I mean, if I get up early at 5 a.m. during the winter to shovel my car and go do all these squats, all these split squats and everything, and when you go to practice and you go to game time, you don't give it your all, I mean, it's kind of counterproductive. So I think it's just I take pride in what I do, and I genuinely feel that if I give it my all, I give my team the best shot to win the game.
Do you get good? What does it feel when you make a big play and the other guys are they congratulating you? I mean, what's kind of that vibe like with the defense? They call you guys the Donut Boys, and kind of a lot of hoopla around the defense this year for BC.
Yeah, honestly, I've been celebrating more in the past. I think I'm locked in, man. And sometimes I'm not that good with celebrating big plays. Either with my teammates or myself. I mean, I remember a couple of times, I mean, our first game this year, Bola Combo had a sack against Calgary. And I mean, honestly, I was just too tired to go high-five him or whatever. I mean, that's something I need to work on a little bit more, even for myself. When I do a big play, sometimes I just go back to the huddle, or you'll see guys do some crazy stuff. I would like to do it, but honestly, I think sometimes I just black out and I forget to do stuff. But yeah, we're having fun for sure. I mean, the DB crew, our DB crew, take care of the celebration more than anything else. But we have cool stuff. Obviously, Menard does the Super Saiyan Kamehameha when he does a sack. So I wish I had a cool celly like that. Unfortunately, I don't. Maybe one day it'll come. But I mean, I'm obviously happy whenever I do a big play to help the team out.
Yeah, you got to work. You need, like, what was it? JJ Watt or TJ Watt does like the roundhouse kick or something, or he does the high kick. Like, you got to figure out something when you get a big sack, and you got to do a cartwheel or.
Yeah, but the worst thing is I've got some planned out with a couple of my teammates this year, but it never happened where we actually pulled it off. So I mean, it would be nice from here on towards the end of the year if we could pull at least one out. That would be pretty cool.
Before I let you go, it's been a rocky season. I mean, really good, but I'm a fan, so it's been rocky for me. Like have some big wins, a couple losses. What's kind of the mindset with the team in the locker room right now?
Yeah, well, obviously the mindset. I mean, we're in a good situation to win the playoffs. Obviously, we want to be in the best place possible in the rankings towards the end of the year. But for me, it's really to focus on Ottawa. I mean, we want to win as possible those last 6 games. But for me, if you see too far ahead, that's where you're wrong. So right now, for me, it's to be able to do our best on Saturday to be able to have the best game as possible. And I truly believe that if we do that, and week in and week out, that's where we'll have success.
Curious, I have on the same show, I have he plays for Montreal now, Almondo Sewell on the show, another kind of all-star defensive person. Just curious your thoughts on him, and just ended up happening this week where we kind of have two defensive superstars on the show.
Yeah, well, I played with Mondo my first year in Edmonton, actually. He was actually either the first person or one of the very first person to talk to me whenever I got there in Edmonton. So obviously, it's cool to see him still doing what he does after, I don't know, 10 to 12 years in the CFL. And I mean, Mondo, I don't want to say a CFL staple, but I mean, sometimes we'll compare other players to him. He has some signature moves, like his hump move, the way he does it. I mean, it's really impressive. So he's a guy that obviously is still really good. But I mean, the way he plays and the way he makes plays, sometimes it's signature Mondo move. So obviously cheering for him whenever he's playing against other teams. Actually, Montreal had a bunch of other players that used to play for Edmonton. They had Mike Moore a couple of years ago. Usher was there earlier this year. Now he's with us. So obviously Mondo is a guy that I was close to in Edmonton. We still talk every now and then when we play against each other. So I'm always happy when he does well. I went to talk to him after our last game in Montreal. So yeah, really happy for him. That's for sure.
Well, I'm excited here, finally getting you on. Like I said, I call the BC Lions America's CFL team, and you're representing, French Canada, and so we've kind of got all of North America covered here. So I wish you luck. Hope it's a good game, and that you guys can really kind of entertain the BC home fans. Are you excited to be back home here and kind of get BC Place rocking?
Yeah, honestly, it's always a really, really fun time whenever we play at BC Place. I think it's because of the dome, but it'll always get super loud, and the marketing team here does an incredible job with everything around BC Place with the Lions. So, I mean, I've always liked it to play here. But, I mean, even fans that have been following the team for the past 10 or so years, I mean, they really see an improvement in the game day experience, either it's on during TV timeout or whatever. I mean, the marketing team just does a tremendous job with the show. So, I mean, the fans are making the most of it, but the players, obviously, we enjoy it a lot. So it's really looking forward for Saturday.
Well, thanks for making time. I appreciate it. Go enjoy some Thursday night football here, and I'll be cheering for you this weekend. Good luck.
Awesome. I will. Thank you, Reed. Have a great day.
Really appreciate all of our guests for coming on today. Like I said, Jeff Hamilton, Chaotic Morning, means a lot, him making the time to come on. I really appreciate Dan Ralph, as always, hopping on at a moment's notice whenever I need him. And then certainly the teams over at the Montreal Alouettes and the BC Lions, Francis and Matt. Super appreciate that. Should be it for me today. Like I said, exciting weekend. Maybe we'll get some Vegas updates here coming in the next few weeks. I don't know. I've heard kind of mixed reports about that as well. So be curious to see where all of that winds out. Like I said, thanks for checking out today. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy any of this content. Trying to get up to 3,500 subscribers. Take care. Have a good weekend, and see you soon.